All right, so are you ready to really get into this whole net neutrality thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I've seen a ton of requests and questions about this recent court ruling, and it seems like
Oh, yeah.
everyone's kind of freaking out.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. So we've got some articles, we've got tons of opinions from Reddit threads, and we've even got some historical context to help us make sense of it all.
Yeah, I think it's really important to look back and see how we even got here.
Totally.
Yeah.
So to kick things off, what exactly did this court ruling say?
Well, basically, a U.S. appeals court struck down the FCC's net neutrality rules,
Okay.
which
So
means,
no more rules.
well, it means that broadband providers, they're not regulated like utilities anymore.
Oh, I see.
So theoretically, they could block or slow down access to certain content online.
So imagine you're trying to stream a movie and it keeps buffering.
Exactly. Or you can't even access a website because your ISP decided to block it.
Okay, that's starting to sound a little scary.
It is a big deal. And that's why people are so fired up about it. The internet's become like the backbone of modern life. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally. We rely on it for everything.
Everything. Work, healthcare, paying bills, entertainment news, even ordering groceries.
Oh, yeah. I thought some people on Reddit were comparing it to losing electricity or water.
Right. It's become an essential utility.
Exactly. It's not just a luxury anymore.
And that's what makes this ruling so unsettling for a lot of people. It feels like we're losing control over something that's become so fundamental to our lives.
Yeah, it's like this underlying anxiety that things could get a lot worse online.
Right. And the fear is that without net neutrality, the internet could become less of a free and open space and more like, well, cable TV with all its limitations and tiered packages.
Oh, man, don't even get me started on cable TV and all those extra fees.
Well, that's one of the big concerns here.
Yeah.
Imagine having to pay extra to access certain websites or services.
So what if streaming movies suddenly cost twice as much?
Or what if you have to pay a premium to access educational resources online?
Okay, yeah, that's definitely not a future I want to live in.
Right, it's a slippery slope. And one Reddit user even brought up this chilling anecdote about Verizon throttling firefighters' internet access during those massive wildfires a couple years back.
Seriously?
Yeah, apparently their data was being throttled, which slowed down their communication and coordination efforts. It was a huge mess.
That's terrifying. It really shows you how high the stakes are when ISPs have that much control over internet traffic.
It's a stark reminder that this isn't just some abstract policy debate. This is about real-world consequences that can impact people's lives in profound ways.
Okay, so to wrap our heads around all this, maybe we should take a step back and look at the history of net neutrality. This isn't a new debate, right?
Not at all. This back and forth over net neutrality rules has been going on for almost 2 decades.
Wow, so this has been brewing for a while.
Yeah, the New York Times article actually traced it back to 2003 when this Columbia professor, Tim Wu, he coined the term net neutrality. And he warned even back then that ISPs could become gatekeepers of internet access and control what we see and do online.
So basically he saw this coming.
He definitely sounded the alarm early on.
Huh.
And since then, we've seen this tug of war between different administrations, the Obama-era regulations, the repeal under Trump, and now Biden's attempts to reinstate them, which led to this court decision.
It's like a political ping-pong match with the internet caught in the middle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it highlights this tension between government regulation and corporate interests.
Right. So who are the key players in this whole debate? Who's fighting for net neutrality and who's against it?
Well, on the side of net neutrality, you have a lot of tech companies like Google and Netflix.
Makes sense. They're all about an open internet.
Right. Their business models depend on it. They want to ensure that ISPs can't favor their own services or charge companies like Netflix extra fees to reach their customers.
So basically they're trying to prevent ISPs from becoming too powerful.
Exactly. They want to protect competition and innovation online. Now, on the other side, you have the cable and telecom companies, the big ISPs, who have generally opposed strict net neutrality regulations.
Okay, so what's their argument?
They argue that heavy-handed government regulations would stifle innovation and discourage investment in infrastructure.
But what about those concerns about throttling or blocking websites? How do they address that?
Well, they usually say that such actions would hurt their business, lead to unhappy customers.
So they're basically saying, trust us, we wouldn't do anything to mess this up.
Yeah, that's the gist. But as we've seen, that trust is kind of shaky for a lot of people, especially after incidents like that throttling during the wildfires.
Right. Actions speak louder than words, I guess.
And then there's the whole issue of tiered internet packages, which could become even more restrictive without net neutrality.
Ugh. So picture this. You get your internet bill, and it's like social media is included in the basic package, but you got to pay extra for streaming video and even more for educational resources.
It would create a two-tiered internet where only those who can afford it have access to the full range of online opportunities.
And that would only widen the digital divide, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And it's not just individuals. Think about the impact on small businesses and startups.
Yeah. Would they be able to compete if bigger companies can pay for preferential treatment?
It's a question of fairness and opportunity.
And ultimately, it's about the future of the internet and whether it remains a level playing field for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So now that the FCC's net neutrality rules have been struck down, what happens next?
So this is where things get interesting. The fight's definitely not over. A lot of people are calling for Congress to pass federal net neutrality laws to provide consistent protections nationwide.
So instead of relying on state-level regulations, which can be kind of a patchwork.
Right. Federal laws would establish a clear and lasting legal framework.
That makes sense. But is that even realistic given how divided things are politically?
It's definitely an uphill battle. But with growing public awareness and concern about net neutrality, it might be enough to push some lawmakers to take action.
And we're also seeing those grassroots efforts, like those community-owned networks popping up.
Yeah, those are super interesting.
Yeah.
People are taking matters into their own hands and creating their own solutions.
So it's not just about top-down regulations, it's about bottom-up innovation as well.
Exactly. It's about communities empowering themselves and finding creative ways to ensure open and affordable internet access for everyone.
That's a pretty inspiring message.
It is. It shows that even in the face of setbacks, the fight for a free and open internet is far from over.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but let's take a quick, let's just move on and explore those community-driven solutions in more detail.
Sounds good.
Hmm.
I'm really curious to dig into those.
Me too. Let's see what kind of innovative ideas are out there.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we were talking about communities building their own internet networks.
Yeah,
Like, is that a real thing?
it is. It's gaining a lot of traction, actually.
Like, is that actually like a viable solution, or is it just kind of wishful thinking from Reddit?
No, it's becoming a more realistic option, especially for places that haven't been well served by like the big internet providers.
So like where the big companies aren't stepping up small towns and stuff?
Right, exactly. We're seeing a surge in these what are called municipal broadband initiatives, where towns and cities are creating their own fiber optic networks to provide high-speed internet to their residents.
Wow, so they're just like, fine, we'll do it ourselves.
Pretty much. And there are a lot of reasons why this is happening.
Like what?
Well, for one, these municipal networks are often way faster and more affordable than what you get from a commercial provider.
So it's better and cheaper.
Yeah. And because they're run by the community, they tend to be more accountable to the people they serve.
They're not just trying to make a profit.
Exactly. It's more about serving the needs of the community.
Okay, I get it. But like building an entire internet infrastructure for a town or city, that sounds incredibly expensive.
It's a big undertaking for sure.
And complicated.
Yeah. But there are funding models.
Hmm.
Public-private partnerships, grants, bonds, and the cost is often offset by the revenue from subscriptions.
So people pay for the service.
Right. Plus, they're not paying those hefty fees to the commercial ISPs anymore.
This is kind of a win-win.
Potentially.
Eh.
And a lot of communities are getting creative with the infrastructure, like leveraging existing utility poles and things like that.
So they're finding workarounds.
Yeah, they're finding ways to make it work. And there are already some success stories out there.
Oh, really? Like where?
Well, Chattanooga, Tennessee is a prime example. They built this amazing municipal broadband network that's brought in businesses, created jobs, and really improved the quality of life for residents.
Wow. So it can actually work.
It can. And it's not just big cities either. Smaller towns and rural communities are also seeing benefits.
Okay, that's encouraging. But let's be real for a sec. These community networks are going up against these giant telecom companies with tons of money and power.
It's a David versus Goliath situation for sure.
So how do they even stand a chance?
It's a challenge. There's no doubt about that.
Like I've heard that these big ISPs, they've lobbied against these municipal broadband projects.
Oh, yeah. They've spread misinformation, filed lawsuits. They don't want the competition.
So it's a real battle.
It is. But communities are finding ways to push back.
Oh.
It comes down to strong community support and political will. When residents see the benefits of having a local, affordable, high-quality internet option, they get behind it. And when elected officials prioritize the needs of their constituents over corporate interests, That's when these projects really gain traction.
So it's like a grassroots movement.
Exactly. It's people power in action.
That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
And it's not just about internet speeds either, right? These community-owned networks can also like boost local economies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Imagine a town where small businesses have access to affordable, high-speed internet. They can compete on a global scale, create new opportunities.
It's like leveling the playing field.
Exactly. And it goes
Okay.
beyond economics, too. It can connect people in rural areas to telehealth services, online education, all kinds of resources.
So it's about more than just like watching Netflix.
Way more. It's about creating a more equitable and vibrant digital world where everyone has the opportunity to participate.
I like that. So it's like a shift in mindset from being passive consumers to being active participants in shaping our own digital future.
That's a great way to put it. It's about taking control.
Okay, so community-driven solutions are definitely inspiring. But what about the legal battle over net neutrality?
Right. Well, there's a big push for Congress to pass federal net neutrality laws to create consistent protections across the country.
So no matter who's in the White House.
Exactly. It would provide stability and clarity.
Makes sense. What are the chances of that actually happening, though?
Hard to say. It's a very politically charged issue, but with all the public outcry and with these community networks showing that there are alternatives to the big ISPs, the pressure for meaningful change is growing.
So it's like a perfect storm brewing.
In a way, yeah. It's not just about passing laws, though. It's about shifting the balance of power.
From corporations to people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are other ideas being floated around, like stronger antitrust enforcement, to break up the monopolies held by these big ISPs.
Oh, so like making the market more competitive.
Right. And some people are even calling for a public option for internet access.
Like how there's talk of a public option for healthcare.
Exactly. A government-run or subsidized ISP that could offer an alternative to the big guys.
So basically, we have options.
We do. This isn't a done deal. There are different paths forward.
It's kind of overwhelming, though. Like, where do we even begin to address all this?
It's definitely complex, but it's important to remember that we're not alone. Millions of people care about this issue and are working to protect the internet.
It's like a global movement.
It is. And we're seeing a lot of innovation and creativity coming out of it.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity to create a better internet.
One that works for everyone.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole conversation so important.
So we've talked about the big picture solutions, but what about us regular folks? Like, what can we actually do to make a difference?
Well, awareness is key. Educating yourself and others about net neutrality and why it matters is a great first step.
So, like, talk to your friends and family about it?
Yeah. Share articles, resources, help them understand what's at stake.
So basically, turn into net neutrality evangelists.
Pretty much. The more people understand this, the better.
Okay, so be informed, but what about taking action? Like, what can we actually do?
You can support organizations that are fighting for net neutrality.
Oh, like donate to their cause, sign petitions?
Exactly. And contact your elected officials. Let them know that this issue matters to you.
So write emails, make phone calls, show up at town hall meetings.
Yeah, make your voice heard. And if your community is considering a municipal broadband initiative, get involved. Go to meetings, rally your neighbors.
So be a part of the solution.
Right. These community-driven efforts are powerful.
I feel a little bit empowered, actually. Like we can actually do something.
You can. We all can. This is a defining moment for the internet, and the choices we make now will have a big impact.
It's like we're all shaping the future together.
We are. And it's not just about internet speeds. It's about protecting the core values of a free, open, and equitable internet for everyone.
Okay, so to like wrap this whole thing up,
Yeah.
let's move on and share some final thoughts on this net neutrality journey we've been on.
Sounds good. I think we've covered a lot of important ground.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. This whole net neutrality thing has really gotten people talking, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely hit a nerve.
It's like suddenly everyone realized how much we depend on the internet for like everything.
Right. It's not just about convenience anymore. It's woven into every aspect of our lives.
And this court ruling, it feels like it's challenging the whole idea of the internet as this like democratizing force.
I think you're right. There's a fear that without net neutrality, the internet could become less about empowering individuals and more about serving corporate interests.
Yeah, it's like we could lose that sense of freedom and openness that makes the internet so unique.
Exactly. The internet has the potential to be this incredible tool for communication, learning, creativity. But that potential can only be realized if it remains accessible to everyone.
It's bigger than just like faster internet speeds. It's about ensuring that the internet remains a force for good in the world.
I completely agree. And it's inspiring to see how people are responding to this challenge. We're seeing so much creativity and resilience from those who are determined to protect net neutrality.
Like those community-owned networks we talked about. It's amazing how people are taking matters into their own hands.
It's a testament to the power of collective action. When people come together and demand better alternatives, they can make a real difference.
It's like the internet itself is fighting back against attempts to control and restrict it.
That's a great way to put it. The spirit of innovation and collaboration that gave birth to the internet is still alive and well.
So what can we as individuals do? Like we've talked about the big picture solutions, but what about on a personal level?
Well, I think it starts with awareness. Educating yourself about the issues and talking to your friends and family about it.
So like spreading the word, basically.
Exactly. The more people understand the stakes, the more pressure we can put on policymakers and corporations to act responsibly.
But what about concrete actions? Like what can we actually do?
Well, you can support organizations that are fighting for net neutrality. Donate to their cause, sign petitions, amplify their message on social media.
So like put our money where our mouth is.
Right. And don't underestimate the power of contacting your elected officials. Let them know this issue matters to you.
So write emails, make phone calls, attend town hall meetings.
Yeah. Make your voice heard. And if your community is exploring the option of a municipally owned network, get involved. Support those efforts.
So be a part of the solution. Don't just wait for someone else to fix it.
Exactly. And be a conscious consumer. Support businesses that align with your values when it comes to net neutrality.
So like do your research and vote with your wallet.
Exactly. And you know something else you can do?
What's that?
Become a champion for digital literacy. Talk to your friends and family about net neutrality.
Yeah.
Help them understand why it matters.
So it's like we all need to become net neutrality evangelists.
In a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more people who are informed and engaged, the better.
This whole conversation has been really eye-opening, but I gotta admit, I'm still a little overwhelmed. Like, it's such a complex issue.
It is. There's no denying that. But it's important to remember that we're not alone in this. There are millions of people around the world who care deeply about the future of the internet and are working to protect it.
And it sounds like there's reason to be hopeful. Like, we're seeing innovative solutions emerging and people are mobilizing.
Exactly. The
Right.
internet has always been about innovation and adaptation, and that spirit is alive and well.
So even with this setback, the fight for net neutrality is far from over.
It's definitely not over. And I believe that if we continue to work together and demand better, we can create an internet that truly serves the needs of everyone.
So as we wrap up here today, remember that the future of the internet is in our hands.
It is. And the choices we make now will have a lasting impact.
So stay informed, stay engaged, and keep fighting for an open, accessible, and equitable internet for all.
Well said. That's a great note to end on.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into net neutrality.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, the internet is a powerful tool. Let's use it wisely.